G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Sunday morning, it's 10 o'clock, and I've just driven to Bathurst, and now I've turned off Bathurst and I'm on my way to Sofala. So what I thought I'd do today is do a book summary in the form of a drive and chat, just to go through and allow you to enjoy this little adventure with me in a vicarious form, where you can stay at home, you can be wherever you are, and you can pretend to be in the car driving along these beautiful country roads on this overcast autumn's day. So what I'd like to do today is take you through a book summary that is entitled The Obesity Code by an author known as Dr. Jason Fung. Dr. Jason Fung wrote a book to try and allow us to understand obesity a little bit better, given that I guess we all have a few extra kilos that we're carrying, and that obesity has become an epidemic, or should I say a pandemic, across the civilized Western world, where we seem to be growing every generation by a few inches, until it's got to the point now where you've got very overweight people these days, and it seems to be the norm. Whereas when I was growing up, if somebody was overweight or obese or grossly obese, it would be seen as a problem, and people would speak up. There was plenty of fat police around when I was growing up, I've got to tell you. Uncles, aunts, friends, strangers, everybody would be commenting if they saw you put on a bit of weight, because I guess they knew that the outside of a person's body, the body shape, was a bit of a guide as to what was happening internally to that person. So there was a push, for young kids, for adults, for older people, to try and at least stay slim for as long as they could, for health reasons, but also for aesthetic reasons as well. So this book here talks about obesity and delves a little bit deeply into the science of obesity, but in layman's terms, to enable us to understand it a little bit better and to hopefully do something about it. Because the longer you leave it, the worse it gets. And the most important lesson to come out of this book from this author is where they inform us and tell us that prevention is far more important than cure. You're better off preventing becoming fat rather than trying to treat it, because treating it is always tricky. So let's just step through it and see what we can learn. And the author talks about the fact that in order to treat obesity, we first need to understand it. So what we'll do is we'll just go through and try and gain a little bit of background, or a little bit of insight into what obesity is, and to figure out that obesity is a condition that can lead to further health issues. So obesity is about being overweight, but being overweight with that level of overweight causing you health issues. So the definition of obesity is being overweight to the point where it potentially can start impacting your health, your physical health, your mental health, and your emotional health. It's all intertwined, and we know that we've been through cycles in our lives where we've been fatter and skinnier, and you know that at certain levels of obesity, you do notice that you're treated differently by other people, which can impact the way you feel and the way you interact with your surroundings and your environment. So being aware that one leads to the other and one can fuel the other, because I know with myself, when I put on weight, my clothes get tighter and my belly starts to protrude, and you just feel different. I notice with myself that I can't bend over and pick up things as easily as what I could do before, and that plays on your mind. It plays on your self-esteem and impacts you in ways which you're not aware that it may impact you, but it does. So what we're saying here is that once your body shape, once your weight starts impacting on your health, then you need to do something about it. For every kilo that you put on, they say that it has a 3 times impact, a 3 kilo impact on your knees and joints. So you're affecting yourself. For every kilo you put on, you're adding kilometers of blood vessels to your system, which means that your heart has to pump harder to maintain your blood pressure and to keep that blood going to all those new cells that have been created with the fat that you're creating in your body. And you've got your outside layer of fat, but you've also got an inside layer of visceral fat, which is a dangerous one, the one that surrounds your kidneys, your heart, your intestines, your liver. You've got fat on the inside of your body, which is impacting your vital organs, is what I'm trying to say. So that is something that shouldn't be just ignored, because it's those vital organs which impact and create and support our vitality. So the author here goes on to say that it's not about calories either. I don't know about you, but I've been on calorie controlled diets for many years in my life, and I don't end up losing all that much weight. And I'm left scratching my head and saying, what the hell is happening? I was doing karate for a number of years. I was managing what I was eating, and yet I was putting on weight. And you say to yourself, shouldn't it be just a mathematical equation of 1 minus 3 equals minus 2? But what this author here is saying is it doesn't quite work that way, because just managing the calories isn't the answer. Because the author goes on to show us and to teach us that certain foods can make the hormones that your body secretes into your bloodstream act in a different way or act in a peculiar way, which leads to the storing of fat. So what we're saying here is a completely different approach to the way we've been brought up. In the past, people would say, well, you need to eat less to lose weight. Whereas you see a lot of people who are just massive. And if you ask them what they eat, now you think they're on bloody Mars bars and Chico rolls and hot chips, and you think they're eating up a storm all the time. But in actual fact, they're probably eating less than what you're eating. And yet their body, for some reason, for some unusual reasons, for some crazy reason, seems to take those calories and to just store them, and to store them really, really efficiently and effectively, which is not what you want. You want your body to be not in a storage sort of activity mode, but to allow your body to burn those things up. So what we're saying is that these hormones cause hormones in the blood to spike, and then that leads to your body wanting to store those carbs away as fat. And the other interesting thing here, a lot of people probably don't want to hear this news, is that 70%, the author says as much as 70% of those hormones that affect your weight are genetic, come from your parents. There are things that you inherit and follow family lines. So once again, if you've got a family line which is inclined to want to store fat and to secrete certain hormones into your body, then you need to work harder, and you need to be more aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it, and the impact that it has on your body. So what we're saying, once again, in summary, is that there are hormones which regulate how fat is stored, and how effectively and how efficiently and how quickly it is stored. And we need to be able to identify and blame this hormonal imbalance. And what we're saying is that high insulin levels increase the fat storage. So the culprit is the insulin, and how our body deals with insulin. So to put it straight, so that you can understand it in black and white, if you've got low insulin in your body, then chances are that you're not going to store fat efficiently and effectively. But if you've got high insulin in your body, chances are that your body's going to store and want to store carbs and calories as fat, and do it as quickly and effectively and efficiently as possible, which is not what you want, is the bottom line. So the other thing that the author talks about is that there's a trend in terms of low income or low socioeconomic families tend to be highly have high obesity, because it's the cheap foods that are high in refined carbs. It's the cheap foods that have the ingredients that spike the insulin. It's the cheap foods that cause us to get fat and to put on weight, and to put on weight in an uncontrolled sort of manner, to the point where it impacts our health. So what we're saying here is that the carbs, the carbohydrates, the refined carbohydrates, are the ones that once you ingest them, once you take them in and eat them, they increase your blood sugar, which causes your insulin to immediately spike, and that leads to instant, or relatively instant, fat storage and weight gain. So sugar, and I repeat once again, sugar and sugar substitutes, anything which is sweet, is the major culprit, according to this author. Both glucose and fructose. And the call to action, the massive call to action from this author, and is to minimize and in fact eliminate all sugars from your diet, because all of these sugars, these fructose and glucose sugars, the fake sugars, all of those things increase our cravings for sugar. Even if you're just drinking Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, even if you're having all of the low-calorie sugars, what the author here is saying is that what is actually happening is it's teaching our bodies to crave sugar, and that's why you'll just go on a binge eating exercise, even though you've been good for a couple of days or a week. You'll go on a binge because your body's just craving that sugar. And once you go on that binge, what happens is that your body will spike the insulin, and whatever your body is taking in terms of calories and food matter will be converted to fat, as opposed to being burnt up. So the author then teaches us that there are good sugars and there are bad sugars. And the way you can identify the difference in the sugars is by the glycemic index. But wherever possible, the call to action is to minimize, if not eliminate, sugars from your diet. But by all means, eliminate the bad sugars first and don't have them coming into your diet at all. The author then goes on to say that each person, this is very, very interesting, this is very profound, each person, believe it or not, has a fat thermostat in their brain, which is preset for each person. And it's preset, or it can be reset and adjusted. But once it's set, it provides a thermostat. It provides something which allows the body to regulate itself to maintain a balance. But that balance could be the wrong balance. As we're saying, the thermostat could be set, could be inherited from when we're young, because as I say, young fat children become fat adults, and by the same token, once that thermostat is set from a young age through bad eating habits, it's something that it's hard to change and alter unless you go on a very strict and regulated diet, is what the author here is telling us. But this fat thermostat in our brains is set, and it's very, very hard to outlive or to outperform or underperform that thermostat. Because I don't know about you, but what I've noticed is that at certain times of my life, I will get to a certain weight, and that weight doesn't matter how much I eat or how much I diet. Sooner or later, I end up being that same weight again, and it seems to support this notion that there is a fat thermostat where our bodies will do whatever it can to maintain that balance. So what we're saying is that if you're obese, if you're overweight, then your fat thermostat has been set at a high level, and it needs to be reset at a lower level in order to experience sustainable weight loss and health benefits that come from that weight loss. Otherwise, you'll have a yo-yo effect. You'll lose it, but you'll gain it back quickly unless you're able to alter that fat thermostat by making sure that you're eating the right things and that your body is processing and your metabolism is working in a way which is having a beneficial impact on your weight proportions. Just had to let a couple of cars go by because they were up my backside. So what we're saying here is that there are people who have things which are called insulin resistance, and this insulin resistance needs to be recalibrated. That's what we're saying, that people who are obese, grossly obese, may be suffering this insulin resistance and need to have their thermostat recalibrated and this insulin resistance recalibrated. So the way we're able to reduce our insulin is by fasting and relaxing and trying to reduce the cortisol in our bodies. When people are doing vigorous exercise like martial arts, what it does is that it triggers in the brain an alert, and it flushes the body with adrenaline to do those fast, aggressive sort of hits. I'll just come back just 1 second, but I just drove past somewhere where I thought maybe the entry to a farm that we used to go to when I was a kid. But so what we're saying is that there are some sports, such as vigorous sports, which are high impact, which may cause us to store our fat, is what we're saying. And as I said, I've noticed this when I did martial arts. The heaviest I have ever been was during the years when I was doing my martial arts. But I was very, very big into karate, and I was training very, very hard. Fair enough, I'd probably be eating a lot more than what I'd normally eat, but I wasn't able to lose weight, and I was maintaining my weight at a certain level, and it may have been because of this fat thermostat and this tremendous amount of cortisol that was being secreted into my bloodstream. I'll get it out. So what they're saying here, what the author is saying, is if you want to reduce the cortisol, then you basically need to be relaxed. You need to be in peace with your body. So through fasting, and when we say fasting, we mean basically eliminating and reducing the carbs in our bodies, and the carbs and the sugars, and to also be calmer and relaxed with our bodily functions. Because by being relaxed, by being chilled, you're not holding on to the fat, and you're allowing your body to not stimulate itself with the excess secretion of cortisol. I'll just let this car go as well. So what we're saying here is, if you want to lose weight, we need to eat less, exercise more, breathe out, be relaxed, but we need to be in a hormonal balance. You can diet all you want, you can fast all you want, you can exercise all you want, but if you're not relaxed and your body is secreting cortisol, the stress hormone, then what's going to happen, according to this author, is that your body is going to grab onto and hold onto every calorie that it comes into it and store it as fat, because your body is in fight, fright or freeze mode, and it will hold on to everything, fearing that it's going to need that energy source for a later date, because it's in an alarmed and a frightened state. So one huge lesson that comes from this author that we can all use and benefit from is that if you want to lose weight, if you want to reset and recalibrate your fat thermostat in your body, and to not hold on to the weight, then it's best to be relaxed, to be chilled, to exercise moderately. You're better off doing the walking, the swimming, and those sorts of exercises that don't spike your cortisol, that don't create alarm and distress in your body. Because the author here says that hormonal balance coupled with exercise and peacefulness is the key ingredient for losing weight, for dropping your insulin, by increasing the leptin, and basically helping us get to a point of well-being that will impact our life in many, many ways. So we need to avoid foods that spike insulin and to resist that resist compounds, and to cause us to resist. Cause us to resist and to fight, and to generate a lifestyle that will lead us to a lighter and better version of ourselves. Sorry about that, I need to get off the road again. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, where we're a few kilometres from Sofala. I'm just going to come into Sofala and just grab something to eat. And thank you very much. As you can see, there's a bit of cloud cover around. It stopped raining. It's beautiful. But we'll chat again in a different place, with a different topic, a topic of empowerment, where we get to showcase the beauty in this country that surrounds us. And I've just really enjoyed today. It's amazing how I can drive through the bush and not see any wildlife whatsoever. You'd think that there'd be bunnies bouncing about and kangaroos abounding, but there's not very much wildlife. And I guess one of the reasons for that is that because of the rain, the wildlife has got plenty of feed inside of these private properties and doesn't need to come to the side of the road to have some fresh pickings. Anyway, we'll chat again. Yes, us, and bye again. Bye.